Yeah. Yeah. Because that's how it works. If you give someone a little bit of value, they're very likely to say, wow, you can do this, but here's everything else. Can you do more of that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll tell you one thing that I do if I'm at a company, whether I'm the solo designer or I notice that there's not a lot of design influence or they don't have that maturity. One thing that I do that has massive ROI is running.
We're officially live. We are officially live, exactly. I mean, this is just an experiment.
All right, Nick. So question for you. So I think we've all been there, and a lot of designers in our industry have been there, where they started a new company or they're engaged in a new contract where you're the only designer. Maybe you're the founding designer, or you're the new designer, but you're alone in a sea of, maybe you're in a team that's filled with engineers, PMs, product owners, and you're kind of having to set the tone of what design means without a design culture in play. Have you been there? And what I'm looking for is maybe to start with some horror stories, and then we can pivot into how to maybe survive in that type of environment.
Yeah, I've been there at least twice. Saying at least because I have two projects that I can remember that I was the first or only designer, and I've always struggled. But it's also been a while, so I would do things differently this time around. It was my second and third ever job, 10 or 11 years ago. Where I was. So I was only the first designer. I was also still a junior designer. And I think that's those two together, only plus less experience. That's a real tough battle to play as a designer. So yeah. How about yourself? Because I know you are not the only designer at your company.
No, it's actually probably the first time that I am in a sea of other designers. So it's a different thing to navigate. But I think I've been the only designer once. So I'd come in as the company had a product on the shelf, but they're opening up a new product line, their new flagship product. So they hired me as the founding designer to kind of launch that new product from 0 to 1. They already kind of started to kind of build it. The PM was playing designer to the best of his abilities, but it was clear that there was a gap that design needed to kind of fill. Yeah. So I kind of started there, and when you start as the solo designer, you want to do everything at once. You want to do make sure that this design process is here. We do the research. We're using the design system. We're doing all things right. But in reality, that's never the case. It's very hard to kind of push everything down the gate. Yeah. So what I did actually was I saw problem number one is that they didn't have the design handoff was broken, obviously, as the PM was doing that role. Step one, it was basically just presenting the design in the correct way, and incorporating engineering at the beginning of projects, so that they didn't get a ta-da, build it. They just they'll get a sneak peek as the first step, and then incrementally adding things over time.
Right. So what you're saying, what I think I'm hearing is that you're giving two examples of improving the way of working around design.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Is that the first thing you if let's say someone's listening to this episode and they start when this episode comes out, it's around April. So let's say someone listening to this episode in May, they're going to start their new job there. They know they will be the only designer, and they're listening to this episode a bit nervous. Oh, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to survive this? They're looking for a bit of how to do your first 100 days. Are you saying that one of the first things they should do is to look at the current way of working, see where the gaps are, see if they can improve it, add design to the mix?
Yeah, I think it's looking at it depends on where you are in your design career, but I think what's the goal is to look at what the current state is today. Look at what your ideal state might be, and then realizing that the goal might be for that first 60, 90 days is to meet in the middle.
Right.
And realize that you may not get to that 100%, but like a good win is getting at least bridging between like current and ideal.
Right.
And I think also what's hard is that typically when you're designing and you're presenting, your first instinct is to present the aesthetic part of the designy stuff. Like, cool, this is how I crafted the aesthetic, line spacing, typography, gestalt, etc.
Yeah.
It can feel lonely sometimes, but what you really should be doing is presenting in the manner or using the language of the person that you're presenting to. So whether that's the PM, like just talking in business language, the goal of the feature, etc., or if it's engineering, talk about constraints and different flows and different edge cases that you're thinking about. Versus, I've come into that mistake where I'm presenting aesthetic and it just falls on deaf ears. Like no one cares.
Yeah.
Like I'm the only one who cares about that part, and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
That's one thing to think about.
Yeah. I think that's true. One thing I would do perhaps even before or in parallel to, looking at the process, what you're saying is that the company should at least know that you exist. Sounds a bit rough perhaps, but especially if you are the only designer in a company of, let's say, 30 people. And there might be an announcement somewhere. Not everyone's going to read it because, full inbox, vacation, sickness, etc. So on the first day, I would go and shake a lot of hands, figure out who my stakeholders are or my collaborators, who my team is, and schedule get to know you calls with all of them. And you don't have to schedule them all on the same day, but let's say in your first 2 weeks, you should have had a one-on-one moment with anyone that is going to have a say on your work or someone that you're going to work with. So I think that's super important. And then the second thing is, they didn't have a designer before. You are the first designer. So something changed. Like someone wanted to have a designer or someone ran into an issue and were like, wow, we really need a designer. It's crucial to figure out what that reason is. Like, I don't want to make it too philosophical, but why am I here? That's super important to know. And then I would focus the process meet in the middle thing, what you said, on that part. Like if they're saying like, well, we get a bunch of red flags from users. They are all telling us that everything looks slightly different and they are confused. Maybe that's the reason they hired you. That's the reason I've been hired somewhere as the only designer. So this is like a real thing that happened. Like our users tell us we don't get it and we don't know how to solve it. Really focus on that. See, like, why did that happen? Like, what's the process there? Did they just ship? Did they just, build it and design it as they are building it, like you mentioned, or something else? Figure that out, because then you show value. You show that it's been the good call to hire a designer. ROI and that kind of stuff.
That's interesting. Can you kind of double click on like booking call with everyone in the companies to show that you exist? What, like, if you're a junior, like a designer joining a new company, should that conversation look like? What should they be saying? You kind of touched on it briefly, but like, if you were to give someone like a playbook, what should they be talking about in those one-on-ones?
I would, if it's in office work, like if you're in the room, I would just walk up to the person, introduce yourself. They are busy, so they do not have time for a 30-minute chat. On the spot. So say who you are, you're new here, and express interest. Hey, we're probably going to work together. I'm curious what you're working on. Do you have time to get a coffee? Have lunch in the company cafeteria or something in the next week, and then the majority of people will be very flattered. Like, wow, this new person is showing interest in my work. Finally, someone's showing interest in my work. In a sad case, they are very likely to say yes. So that's the starting point. And what I just mentioned that you can say face to face is also what you put in an email. Hello, I'm new here. What are you working on? Curious to learn more about you. Do you have time for a chat? Simple email. So that's how you get them to talk to you. and then you basically repeat the same question during that meeting. I always like to only have the starting point scripted, and then depending on what they say, you figure things out as you go, because some people, they talk, you just have to put in a coin and then they keep talking forever and ever.
Yeah.
But some people don't talk at all. You really have to keep asking them questions. So that being said, like, you cannot script the whole conversation. So only script the beginning, ask them about what they're doing, their struggles, and listen to them.
Yeah.
They will, like, if they say something twice, it means that it's something that means something to them. So I don't know which episode we talked about this, but see if you can figure out like the thing that moves them. Like, what do they find annoying? Like, well, this developer thinks he can design, but it looks like my nephew made it, or this designer is taking too long. Like, all we're doing is waiting on his research. If you hear something like that, you know that it's something that he finds annoying, and that's an in for you to show you that you can do it better. And that's the politics game. I'm rambling a little bit now, but I'm almost done. That's the politics game, to get people in your camp. Because it's the designer versus everyone else.
Yeah.
But you need like the 1 versus 30. You need to get it to 16 versus 15. You need to get people in your camp. And introduction calls are the first step towards it. Period. End of rant.
That's good. It's good. It's similar to what like my strategy as well. I remember at that company where I was the only designer there, like I did book calls with everyone. But if I would double click on like, I was focused initially on the engineering team, and I asked them, was similar to what you're saying, but basically, I'm curious what you do, what team you're working on. This is how I used to work. I'm curious how things are today, and what are some of the pain points that you're dealing with that I can help remove. And then if you do that with every engineer, you get to your point, the patterns. And it's like, okay, if I fix these top 3 things, I'll be in their good graces. So you're showing value before you ask for the thing that you need.
Yeah. Because that's how it works. If you give someone a little bit of value, they're very likely to say, wow, you can do this. Here's everything else. Can you do more of that?
Yeah.
I really like what, by the way, I think it's really funny when you say like, let's double click on that. Like, I think that's very in context. It makes a lot of sense for us working on software. Anyway, meet in the middle. Phrase of the week. Yeah. Did you come up with that, or is that just something everyone knows but me?
No, I've been watching a lot of like sales training, and then that word keeps coming up. Like, can you double click on that? Seems like a sales phrase that I just picked up this week.
Oh, I like it less. Anyway, I think that's something many people struggle with. What I actually wanted to say before I got distracted by your double click phrase is, earlier this episode you said you cannot go all the way right away. You have to meet in the middle first. I noticed that a lot of people, a lot of entry-level designers that I talk to, they have this perfect end goal in mind, and then everything they can do that's not that end goal yet, they dismiss it because it's not perfect. They're looking at you with big eyes and like eye opener, like this magic moment for them when you tell them like, you can use stepping stones along the way. You can do things that aren't final. They are temporarily, they are just a way to get there. They're like, yeah, I didn't think about it that way. And this is not meant to bash anyone. This is just, a pattern that I'm seeing. It's okay to take, baby steps as long as they are into the right direction. I don't care how big the step is. It's just slowly getting there.
Those incremental wins, like they're wins. So like baby steps are individual wins that you can kind of like, oh, okay, I did that thing. It's not, it may not be like your end state, but like I would pat myself on the back saying, I got that a small incremental win.
Yeah.
Our process is slightly evolving month to month or year to year. And we'll get there, but it's better than it was before I started.
Yeah. True. How about, you mentioned presenting the aesthetic as perhaps not being the ideal thing to do, right? That's at some point, like I think it can be part of the thing you're doing. especially if you are joining, if you're new and everything looks like it's been designed by a non-designer.
Yeah.
Like if you can have a before and after, like before being current and after being your improved version. And if it's like night and day difference, I think then it's okay to present the aesthetic, at
Yeah.
least a little bit, as long as a non-designer can, everyone can see that it's indeed better the way you're designing.
Yeah, I'll tell you like one thing that I do if I'm at a company at whether I'm the solo designer or like I notice that there's not a lot of design influence or they don't have that maturity. One thing that I do that has like massive ROI is running internal usability studies outside
Right.
of product management and engineering. Like do it with like legal, with sales, with customer success. What I do is when I'm working on a feature and then I want to test a couple concepts, or even if I don't want to, I just make up a shitty V2. But the goal, but what I'll do is like in Slack, I'll go, hey, I'm running a usability study, looking for five to eight volunteers max. Send me a message in a DM, and then I can book a session with you. Part of that is
Yeah.
urgency and capping. Like I theoretically can run 15, 20 different usability studies, but I'm capping it at 8. And
Mm.
so like it looks like it's limited supply. And so it feels like I'm more valuable than I am. But if I run that usability study with them, they get a sense like, oh, this is what this design person does.
Yeah.
And then whenever they double click on like, and to use that word again, whenever they like mention something aesthetic, that's the opportunity that I take to kind of maybe push a bit further and describe, yes, this is like a UX principle that I deployed here. This is why I designed it a certain way. So like first I'm just showing like why or like the goal of the feature. And then if they pinpoint something, I'll use that as like a learning mechanism. Like here's
Yeah.
what I do kind of thing.
Yeah.
And once you do that once in a while, like every if you do that every time you launch a feature, and you cap that at 8, like you become like this hot commodity. Like, oh, sorry, I was late on Slack. I didn't have a chance. Like, oh, well, I'll put you at the top of the list next time.
Next time.
And th-
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you can become very popular because you're doing
Yeah.
this new thing
Yeah.
that they're not familiar with. But they really want to test it out, especially the sales team. They want like first dibs, but
Yeah.
you got to respond quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. You should have a booking link and you should vibe code some sort of 10 people are looking at this slot right now type banner in the corner.
Oh, really? Just some
Yeah,
CRO
go
angle
full.
to it.
Yeah, go full dark pattern. How about and I really hate this word. Maybe I should have a list of words I don't like. But from my corporate days, they had multiple metrics of how they would grade and review employees, and one of the important metrics was internal visibility. Like how much are you showing of yourself?
Yeah.
To your colleagues. But with today's wisdom and having been away from that corporation for quite a while now, I think that in its core it makes sense, especially if you are the only designer at a company.
Mm-hmm.
So at a small scale, you are inviting people to get to know you, and for you to get to know them. But at a larger scale, you need perhaps to have a monthly newsletter internal where you
Mm-hmm.
just send perhaps the results of those usability studies, or anything ROI related, or just design related stuff where you show everyone in the company what you've done. That's perhaps also a good thing to do. Like, have you ever done something like that, or would you recommend someone to do it, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think I haven't done that. That's a really good tip. Like, publish the results, and that could just be like if you have the results in like a Confluence document or a Notion document, just share it out, or just like record a Loom saying, "Here's thank you to
Yeah,
John
keep it
Smith.
simple.
Here's the results. Thank you for your feedback," and then upsell the next
Yeah,
usability study. But like that's a skill in itself. Like we mentioned it before, like in a previous episode, like the thing that you're good at, like if you become a 10 out of 10 designer, that doesn't push the needle in terms of like career progression, part of it is like the politics game. So the
Yeah.
more, to your point, the more visible you are, the more it looks like you're kind of active, whether that's probably more specifically beneficial if you're remote. Like if you're more active in Slack channels, if you're doing one-on-ones with different people, those relationships are like that politics game gives you more ROI than just
Yeah.
being good at the hard skills.
Yeah. True. True. That it sounds a bit annoying, but they have to like you. Yeah. In a while. What happened to me recently, and I think that was a great sign of progress, basically, is that I got a message from a developer where he told me like, "Hey Nick, here's what we're currently working on. Here's our challenge." And the founder told me to involve you. What do you think?
Ooh,
And that for me was a very good sign. So for all the things that we said this episode, they know I exist. They know where to find me, and they want my involvement because they've seen my ROI, so to speak, before. So they know, like, if we involve this person, this designer, it's going to be a positive for us. Like,
yeah.
what he's talking about. He's proven it before. Let's just involve him and not do it on our own. So yeah, if you get that sign, if you can see that happen, I think that's an example of a sign that tells you that you're doing a good job as the only designer at a company.
It is because you've shown, and that's just anything. You've shown that you're able to you excel at these 5 different things, and then it's known across the company. If a problem comes down the pipeline, they're going to call, "Hey, Nick's good at this. Let's,"
Mhm.
into your example, "let's bring him in because he's really good. He'll give us value there."
Yeah. Let me ask you something. What you would do in a particular situation. So let's say you are the only designer at a company, and you are of the UX brand. So you are a UX designer at a company. That
Mhm.
and no generalist or vibe coding or shipping or anything. You're
Okay.
as pure as it gets. You are like an old school traditional UX designer. Founder comes your way and he tells you, Tyler, we need a few of these marketing slides, like for a slide deck. Will
Okay.
you do that, or will you say no? That's not my role.
Yeah. No, I think I would take that up. It's
Mhm.
in like I hate slide decks like with a passion. Like if you get me to do a slide deck, it'll be good, but I dread every moment of it. But like the
Mhm.
benefit is you get some one-on-one time with that person, and then you get the benefit is not I can maybe I'm not I do this slide deck. It's outside of my job description, but your brand is kind of pushed. Like this person is useful. He doesn't just do this one thing. He's kind of a journalist, but he's just
Yeah,
it more shows that you're a team player,
yeah,
that you can help out what's needed. You just don't do your thing and then be that. This is a very Canadian reference, but if you're in Walmart and it's not my section and you're a customer looking for help and like, hey, do you know where the shoes are? So, sorry, this is not my section. Go that way. That person can help me.
Mhm.
Can't you? This store isn't that big. Can you just tell me where the thing is?
Yeah. I I think that's really funny. Makes me think about grocery stores, and I know our grocery stores are way smaller than yours. But yeah, reason I'm asking is because I've been part of yet again of another Reddit discussion where I was the minority with my answer. Most people were saying like, no, it's not your job. It's yet another founder trying to find 2 people in one person, 2 salaries in one person. Like they're just cheap. Tell them to go find a slide deck designer.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to do it. And then many upvotes and everyone agreed. But then my answer was similar to yours. I didn't even think about showing that you're a team player, getting one-on-one time. Like all I thought about was, you are showing value. You can do this thing.
Yeah.
The next time they will come to you with more things because they've asked and you've delivered. Like that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You are in a positive space in their mind. That's enough reason to do it because you will get a better seat at the table because of it. But what you're saying perhaps is even more important. The one-on-one time and
Yeah. It's just like
how
the
they perceive
relationship.
you. So yeah, Yeah. I mean, that's super important. So that's also part of the playbook for the only designer at a company. Like, put your hands on things that you like. How do you say it? Like, if you can get your hands on a design job, even though it's not perfectly aligned with what you're doing, just take your chances, because it will be good for you, because it will get you closer to doing the design stuff that you want to do.
Exactly. And like also like that's extra context. Like if I'm the UX designer and then I get pulled into a slide deck, I'm interacting with marketing and sales. And marketing has the pulse on like the IPC, like the persona that you're targeting, and then sales is talking with your customers. So that just like if you bring some of that information back to your day-to-day work, it's only beneficial.
Yes, I think so. Maybe to wrap things up, just out of curiosity, and I will tell also, like, what happened to your job where you were, the one where you were the only designer?
I think it was it was the only designer for like the 3.5 years I was there.
Mm,
Till I
yeah.
moved on. So
Oh, you moved on. Okay.
yeah, which it's hard. I think what was hard for me, I think, was how do you at a certain point, like you're fast, you get better at your job. How do you then advocate for like to grow the team when you're the only one?
Yeah.
When you have to like part of that job is like showing that you personally have value, and then ladder up that design has value, and then the next stage is we need more
Yeah.
we need more capacity of the team because there's
More to do.
there's more to do. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So you left in a good way, like you decided to go somewhere else. Okay. I I said like that I've been the only designer in 2 cases, but I remembered there's 3. So the first one was my very first job out of school. Company got acquired and I was the last one in. So I had the easiest contract that I could get rid of. I was they kicked me out because they had too many people post acquisition, and they let go of the cheapest people with the least amount of time in the company. So a bit of bad luck. I did enjoy my time there because I had a very design first manager.
That's good.
He wasn't a designer, but he really was pro design. He knew the value.
You had your
Great
champion.
person.
That's good.
I had my champion on like that mid level and slightly above managerial level. So that's been really helpful. The second one was a startup ran out of money. Didn't find investors. And the third one, we agreed to not extend my contract because none of us were really happy. I got brought in by a manager who wanted to build a design team, and then it didn't really work out. So then that manager left, and I was there without the manager that really wanted to bring me in, and it just didn't vibe anymore. So I didn't really want to be there anymore. They didn't really want to have a designer there. And then because of those 3 experiences, I wanted to move somewhere as not the only designer. So the next job I went into was a large company, 6,000 people, but they had I think a design studio of around 40 people. So I could really learn from other designers on the job every day. I felt like I really needed that. So battle hardened, I would say, as the only designer in multiple companies.
Yeah, I think that's why I am where I am. I wanted to be part of a team of larger designers. It actually reminds me, maybe I forgot about it because it was it was mentally taxing, but actually there was 2 companies that I worked for where I was the solo designer. Funny story, actually, I was hired by, it was in fintech. I was hired by the VP of product. They were, I think they had a designer, but he was contract, but they wanted someone full time. I started on my first week, and on the 4th day, the person who had hired me, the VP of product, quit.
Oof.
And it was one of those companies where I was like first one in, first one out, but like it wasn't stable situation that I was coming into.
Right.
The benefit, like, are harking back to your other point, because he left, I had to assume PM role. So I was a hybrid product manager and designer, which, not part of my job description, so much so that the CEO introduced me sometimes as the PM instead of the designer. But like, not my job, but also I did it anyways. And then it's like a skill set that I carry with me like today. Like, I found that it was like, wasn't my thing, but like beneficial that I had that context, and I was able to flex that muscle because I continue to flex it today.
Yeah, so it's sucked in the short run, but it's been really beneficial in the long run. Sort
Exactly.
of a trial by fire, like you sink or swim, like you had to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Huh. That's what I like about this show. Like, everything we're saying is based on like real experience. It's not just something that we found online and asked ChatGPT to, reformat into our own voice and then still sound generic. It's real experience what we're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, there's too much of that stuff going around.
Yeah. Perhaps an episode at some point for us to really share our horror stories. Really get it out of our system.
Plenty. So that'd be an action-packed.
Me too. Yeah. Lots of angry people. Anyway, I think this is a good playbook. I think we've been very specific here, right? With things to do in the beginning and how to make your solo adventure as a solo designer a success. Yeah. I don't have any closing thoughts. I think I just shared them.
Perfect. Yeah. Do we maybe want to tease next episode?
Sure. Let me.
I love a good teaser.
Bring up I think the next one is very interesting. I think it relates to what we're talking about. So let's say you're the solo designer, only designer at the company. Mm-hmm. You think things are going well, and suddenly you get an email, a meeting invite by a manager, and no message, only a subject line, and it says, "We have to talk."
The dreaded line.
Yeah, you know where that's going. You are going to be invited into the employee transitioning room. On a more serious note, you just lost your job, what to do next? And I have to admit that happened to me in the early stages of my career more often than I would have liked. So a few real battle stories there for sure, and can't wait to hear yours, if you have any, by the way.
Yes, of course, yeah. I think it would be good teaser, and also really beneficial to kind of help people navigate those situations.
Yep. I'll think about it already, and then we'll discuss next time.
All right.
See you then.
That was a great episode. So if you like this content and want to hear more, please like and subscribe.
Yeah, and if you want to see more, please go to designtablepodcast.com, Spotify, Apple Music, all the big players, and more.